All right, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's good to have everyone back. How's everyone doing today? Can't believe it's already my sixth podcast that I'm doing. That's kind of crazy. No, 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 no. It might be seventh. Let me just double check. At this point in time, I'm yeah, number seven. Look at that, lucky seven. Today's going to be a good one. We're going to do it on a very, very interesting topic near to my heart, which is masculinity. Now, how I got about this topic and how this got brought up, because this is something I actually wanted to wait a bit of time to talk to a little bit in the future. But actually, a friend of mine reached out and was interested in getting my thoughts on it. And this is something I'm super passionate about. It was a lady, right? And she was having an issue where she felt that her younger brother was being babied by her mother a little bit, right? Maybe her mother was kind of going in there and doing too much for him, not allowing him to take responsibility to kind of live his life and make decisions on his own. So we'll get into that in a minute, but it's really great to be back. Just wanted to go through a few things to start it off. It seems like I'm getting a lot of traffic on Spotify. As of today, we're actually on Amazon's podcast station as well, and we are growing quite a bit. We're listed on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music now as of today, Deezer, Listen Notes, Player FM, and we just submitted to Apple Podcasts, so we should be on there very shortly. Again, I also have a YouTube channel where I record all of these videos and upload the content there. You can definitely check me out. I'm on Facebook now, as well as Twitter, and I do have an Instagram. This is all at Baroque_cast. So let's actually jump into the topic because, again, this is something that I've always found super important and passionate to me because I think it affects society as a whole, right? But before we get into that, and here's where it's the interesting part, I'm actually going to talk about a piece of society that we haven't thought about for quite some time. I'm sorry if you can hear those fire trucks. It sounds like someone's in quite a bit of danger right now. Might have to tune that down just a little bit. We'll wait for him to pass. But, that's the great thing about podcasting. You can't really predict what comes up. So I'll have a sip of coffee while we're waiting for that lovely noise to go away. Great, great, great. By the way, coffee I get is from a local coffee shop. I actually split between two different ones in Reston, Virginia. One of the coffee shops is Weird Brothers Coffee. Brilliant, brilliant dark roast. They have one of the best I've ever had. It's called Embrace the Dark Side. But right now I'm actually drinking one of their competing brands in Reston, which is another local roaster at Lake Ann. It's the Lake Ann coffee shop. And I believe this is their medium roast. And again, amazing coffee as well. I like to switch off. One week I'll buy from one week the other to make sure you support local. Another thing I'm super passionate about, which is supporting local businesses. We can't allow corporations these days to take everything and basically run your local government, run your local area, and kick out all the folks that have worked so hard to build their own stuff. So make sure whatever you do, support local. That's such an important thing. So highly, highly recommend that. But now that we have less of a fire truck, we can get back to the main topic at hand, right? So here's before we can start talking about masculinity, I think it's important to talk about empowerment for women, right? So a lot of these things are pretty much well known, and if they're not, here's a quick refresher on them. It was not so long ago that women were very much told to stay in the kitchen, that they couldn't have jobs, that they were basically needing to run a household and they couldn't be who they wanted to be. Thank God that's changed, and now we have a society, at least in the United States, where the majority of the time women are told, hey, you can be whoever you want to be, and it's encouraged to become and grow into the person that you want to be, which I highly recommend. Don't ever let someone box you in to what they think you are. You are who you are, and you have to drive to that, right? So talking on that subject, right, we have a culture that kind of grew from and matured from this place where women were basically not allowed to work. They were not allowed to have jobs. They were not even allowed to vote at one point in time. And now we've got to a place where, as a woman, and I can't speak because, that's not a perspective I have, being a male, but as a woman, you can now basically go out and do pretty much anything you want to do if you're interested in doing that. And that is amazing, and that's great, and we need more of that, and we need to inject that into every part of society, and all of the roles that women are interested in taking and growing with. We need to allow and consistently allow that to be a part of the culture that we have. So starting off with that's kind of the preface to getting into masculinity, right? Because we saw a change in the culture from basically keeping women down more or less, and then now evening the playing field more so against men, and allowing men and women to compete directly in the marketplace, to allow them to compete in social settings, to allow them to compete in private areas and organizations as well. And this is important because what I have noticed, again, this is anecdotally and personally, is we've seen a decline in the same energy and the same messaging to younger men of the generation, right? We hear a lot about how it's very important to bring women up, to empower yourselves, and you got to keep that message going strong. There's nothing wrong with that. I fully believe in it, and I try my best to do that and push that message as much as possible. But I believe we're failing our young men, okay? In a sense that, if you look at some of the statistics lately, there's places in England, at least, where 60% of the graduates in some colleges are female. Only 40% of the males are graduating college. And that's crazy. It's not as bad in the United States, but it's definitely something like 55-45%, if I'm not mistaken. And it's like we have a failing of men right now in our culture. And the reason that's important to bring up women first is because we did a lot in strides to help uplift women and put them in the positions that they need. And again, there's always more work to do, so don't think that there's not. But the point is, we can't just turn a blind eye to the crisis that is over the side of the hill that we're going to hit if we don't stop soon and we start devoting some of our resources to empowering young men who just are completely directionless, in my opinion, these days in society. We need to help give them focus. We need to help empower them as well, not in a sense that, you can get this job or whatever. That's always been a consistent trait for men in our country. But we need to empower them in a way that shows, hey, you can be whoever you want to be, and by doing that, you have to find out who you are in yourself. And this is really what the crux of the problem is, right? Men in society, and this is why I'm talking about masculinity, I believe have become weak. But what does that mean, right? When I say weak, I don't mean physically strong. I mean mentally weak. We have so many men today that are more or less not only babied by their parents, but by themselves as well. And what I mean is they don't take responsibility for their actions. They don't pick themselves up to go try and do better. Okay, we have a lot of this generational parenting that started taking hold, where we're not allowing young boys to kind of become boys, right? Now, there's a lot of studies that have been done on genders and things like that, and I'll be the first to tell you I'm no expert on that. Okay, so flat out, when it comes to gender, that's not something I'm an expert on, but I do have an opinion, and everyone should. Albeit perhaps an ignorant one, but nonetheless it is an opinion. But I believe, children should be able to play in the ways that they need to play, and I think that at least when boys are considered, right, perhaps they have more energy than some of the other genders out there currently. I don't know, but all I know is when I was younger, right, we were kind of told to kind of like go outside and go play. We were allowed to roughhouse more than some of the girls that you interacted with. Some of the teachers allowed the boys to be rougher and things like that. Now, I think there's certain merits on why that's good and why that's bad. But I want everyone to stop for a second before you spam me with comments or or recommendations. This is not a man versus woman thing, right? Together we live in society. Together we have to make society move forward. We have to grow together. And so where there's a failing on either side, all of us suffer, right? And right now we have this group of men that they don't take the responsibility for themselves to become who they are, to fight off the pieces of their mind and to fight off the pieces of their self that are negative and not positive and need to grow and become better, right? One of the biggest things that we've heard in the last few years is this whole push for the word toxic masculinity. And I'll be honest with you, here's where I draw the line. I find that quite appalling, right? And I think it's not that the idea is wrong, but I think that the way it's being described is wrong. And what I mean by that, right, is let's take a look at what generally people say are toxic masculine traits, being pushy, being too assertive, being ignorant, being rude. A lot of these things have been associated with sexual harassment. A lot of these things have been associated with not allowing others to speak up, being that machismo, alpha male type guy. Fuck all of that. That is not masculine. That's what I'm getting at. Those are not masculine traits, right? It's not toxic masculinity. That's not the problem. The problem is the lack of masculinity. Because let me tell you right now what it means to be, at least for me, masculine as a man. It means that you speak up for others who don't have a voice. It means that you provide a platform for people that are unheard. It means that you protect those who you care about and love as you would yourself. It means that you help anyone in need. It means that you're a gentleman. It means that you take no for an answer. And it means that you're someone who is reliable, who can be trusted, who can get the job done, who puts others before themselves. That is what a man is. Well, that is what a masculine person is. Those are masculine traits. That is masculinity. That's not toxic. What's toxic is the lack of masculinity in our society. We have young boys that are not growing up to see that they need to fight the demons within themselves. They need to cut out these pieces within themselves that are non-productive to society, that are associated with being lazy, that are associated with being someone who doesn't care about others, that are pieces of them that allow themselves to talk over others, that push down other members of society. Those are not masculine traits. That's not toxic masculinity. That's a lack of masculinity. And that's incredibly important to understand. So I think that we need to move society forward, and we need to recognize and stop looking down at the idea of what masculinity is. We need to stop chastising it as a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. What is bad is when you have all these males together that have not taken the hero's journey, if you will. And what do I mean by that, right? If you look at any of the stories of the past, and I'm generalizing here, or older movies or literature or anything like that, usually you'll see you'll see the hero's journey, right? Which is essentially a person, whether it be male or female, that's irrelevant actually, goes on a journey to obtain something or defeat some evil, right? And on the journey, about midway through this story, they eventually fail at their task, right? And once they fail, they realize that they've hit rock bottom. And once you hit rock bottom, it's a good way to put yourself into it's a good way to put life into perspective, right? Like when you are at rock bottom, everything has failed you, and you have an opportunity to grow in any direction from there. And this is why you see that reoccurring continuously in all these stories, right? And so you have the hero who hits rock bottom, and once they do, they realize, okay, why did I lose? Maybe it's not even worth it. And they start doubting themselves, right? And they start saying, oh, maybe I'm not, the person who can defeat this great evil or obtain this, specific item, whatever it is. And then they go through this existential crisis, if you will, and kind of realize that the person that they thought they were is not who they actually are. It's this facade, this fakeness, this lackadaisical covering that they've draped over themselves, that they need to peel back and rip apart and just get rid of to unveil who they are. And what that does is they go through this journey, they see, where they grow as a person. They grow as a person into someone better, into someone who is a leader, into someone who helps others, into someone who understands who they are. They incorporate those negative traits that they were expressing going into this to obtain what they're looking for, defeat this evil, into themselves. And they understand, okay, that's who I am. For me to continue this journey, for me to obtain that item or defeat that evil, I have to acknowledge first that these are my failings. And now that I have acknowledged them, I need to do everything in my power to push them down and keep them at the bottom of my thought process and where I'm going, to make sure that I don't have those negative traits manifest within myself and within the life I'm leading. And once they do that, they come out on the other side as a different person. And then they go and they take the second chance to, defeat that great evil or obtain the item that they're looking for, and they pretty much always win in these stories, right? And that is the classical hero's journey in just about any book and story that you can possibly imagine, right? It's not based on the end, right? The journey is not based on defeating evil or getting the item. It's based on growing as a person, as yourself, right? And to do that, you have to acknowledge the failings you have. And this is why we're not seeing, in my opinion, men become more masculine and start exhibiting those positive masculine traits, right? It's because they're not going through that journey anymore. Society has told men that you don't have to. You should love who you are. Well, I actually don't believe that. I think you should love yourself as a person, and everyone very much should. But if you just love who you are, then you're just going to blind yourself and be ignorant to some of the failings you have. And we all have failings. Mine are countless, no doubt. I add 10 more every day, and I've lost track years ago. But everyone, if they do some introspection and look into themselves, they can understand, and they'll know what their biggest failings are. And that's what you have to tackle first, right? You can't go through life just ignoring those. Because if you do, then you can't go to the next level. You can't defeat that great evil. You can't get the item you want. And that's the problem with men. We're not being injected with that needed masculinity in society, that mental toughness and fortitude to basically say, hey, you got to fix who you are, and then you become who you're supposed to be. How many men do we see that drop out of college because they're finding themselves, because they're not hearing the right message? And this is just one piece to it. It's not all about college, right? Because again, you don't need college to be successful. You don't need college to be someone who can make a living in this world, who decides to take a journey down that way. There's an infinite number of different paths you can take, and all of them are just as relevant. But the important piece is, who is telling you that you need to fix yourself before you can try to do all these other things? Because that's not what society says anymore. It says love yourself. And in my opinion, that's not what men need to hear. They need to go through that struggle. They need to face themselves. One of the most interesting quotes I heard recently, and I'm going to paraphrase here, was one of the most difficult struggles that we all go through in life is the struggle of ourself. Before you can conquer anything, you have to conquer yourself. And that is so relevant. That is so incredibly relevant in today's society. Now these recommendations can apply to men and women evenly. That's completely fine. Gender has nothing to do with it up to this point. But what I am seeing is a larger group of men that are more mentally weak, that are less masculine than women, in a sense that when I use masculinity, I see it as those positive traits, right? And I'm seeing a lot of those positive traits be preached to women, and they're incorporating them into their psyche and their ideas and their beliefs, and that's great and amazing, and we need to keep doing that. But we're also missing the piece to help our younger generation of men understand that. All this harassment stuff, that's not toxic masculinity. We've already touched on that. That's the lack of masculinity. No one should be harassing anyone. No one should be making others feel unsafe. Because I'll tell you what, if it comes down to it, and you find someone who actually has these positive masculine traits with him in the same room as someone who's harassing, they're going to be the first person to stand up and shut that person down or protect someone who needs it. And that's what our society needs more of. Without that, we can't, as a society, move forward. This is a big thing. Tolerance, that's a positive masculine trait. Tolerance for not engaging, right? Not being that person who steps up and starts a fight. You can sure as hell finish it, but you're not going to be the person who starts it. Unless you're protecting someone you care about or something that you find dear to yourself. And by fight, I mean it could be a verbal argument, it could be a disagreement, it could be any number of things. I'm not meaning inherently a physical thing. Well, so you get what I'm saying, right? So this is why we're seeing a failing, in my opinion, of men in our society. They're being preached all of this stuff that is taking the responsibility off themselves and giving it to others. How many moms out there, how many sisters, daughters, wives are basically girlfriends, fiancés, are basically out there controlling the lives of the men because they think that they're dating or they're with or they have children that are basically just man children, giant man childs. You can't allow that. It's at some point in time you're contributing to that person being this man child by not allowing them to grow and go on that journey. You're taking from them the growth that they could be going through on their own. And that makes me very sad. And again, that's my only advice to women would be, make men take responsibility for the things they do. Don't baby them. Don't run their lives. Don't always cover them for things that you think are nice. Let them grow into it. A little bit of failure can do wonders for someone, to help them learn how to improve, to show them that, hey, to get things together, I've got to get, myself together first. I got to pull myself up on my bootstraps and make sure this doesn't happen again. A little bit of failure is good. It's you don't teach people not to fail. That gets you nowhere. You teach people how to recover from failure. Throughout your life, throughout my own life as well, we're all going to go through failures consistently, constantly. But the important part is to have grit, to pick yourself up and get past those failures, to move past it. That is what men need today in society, and that's what they're not getting. We have this generation of weak-minded men that mentally they can't crack, they can't hang, they can't deal with their own ideas of what they want. The whole idea of finding yourself blows my mind. What do you mean finding yourself? You live in your body you are in. I get it. You may not know what you want to do. That's fine. Take a step in any direction and start walking. And if you don't like it, turn around and find a different path. But sitting around waiting for it to come and hit you in the face, that's not going to do anything. That's never going to happen. That will almost never happen. You have to go on your own journey. And to do that, you have to realize that you got to start walking somewhere. You got to pick yourself up. Make your bed in the morning. It's an easy way to start. Find a physical outlet to start burning off some energy. Do some running, lift some weights, join a team sport, join a kickball league for God's sake, Do some push-ups and sit-ups. Anyone can do that in their house. Go for a walk. Whatever it is. Add something to your life. That's going to get your blood flowing. That's going to give you a little bit more clarity in your mind. It's going to open up your perspective, have some endorphins injected into your brain through the post-workout window you have. Once you do that, start looking in yourself. Look deeply into some of the areas where you could work on yourself, and then start devising a plan of how to get there, how to improve, how to basically fix the personality conflicts you have within you, to then allow yourself to get that item that you're looking for, to defeat that great evil in your life, whatever it may be. And in today's society, those things could be like finding a job. They could be like graduating from college. They could be asking for a raise, passing a test, taking up a hobby, whatever it may be. If you want to be successful in that thing, you have to deal with your own personal conflict within yourself. You can't be someone who's weak. You can't be someone who just gives up when things don't go right. Because I'll tell you, first thing, in life, things really don't go right. In fact, they almost never go right. Right? I know it's funny to say that, but it's like so many things go wrong in everyone's lives that we all don't realize because we're not in their shoes. That we need to understand that in order to be successful in this life, one of the most important things to do is to have that grit to continue on, that perseverance, and we talked about that in a previous episode. But that's so important. There's a famous TED Talk speech on that by I forgot the lady's first name, but her last name was Duckworth, and she talks about grit. I highly recommend you check it out. It's a brilliant cast, if you will. TED Talk. But yeah, so that's basically it, right? We'll break this down real quick again. In society, we've done a lot to bring up the status of women. Right now, we have a general failing of men, okay? And we need to find a way to do that. And ladies, if you're listening, the best thing you can do is force men to take responsibility for themselves. Don't do things for them outside of being nice, of course, but don't baby them. That's the context, right? And men, get off your ass and get your shit together. No one else is going to do it for you. You must control your own fate, your own destiny. Don't wait for life to come. Go meet it. Go on that journey. And through going through that journey, you're going to learn a lot about yourself. It's not going to be great. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be one of the most difficult things, and based on the quote that I had earlier, perhaps the most difficult thing you can possibly do in your entire life. But at the end of the day, it's going to be worth it. And everything is going to make sense. And that's my cast for today. I'm really glad you guys had a chance to listen. I'm super, super enjoying this. Please, if you get a second, it really helps to like and subscribe. I'm loving the content I'm putting out. If you guys have any recommendations, shoot me an email on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, wherever. Feel free to reach out. I'm liking how this is going, and hopefully we're going to keep putting this out Monday through Friday. It's a nice challenge to me. It's perhaps my own little hero's journey, if you will. And hopefully I'm giving a little bit of advice that may help even one person. And that would be great to me. That would make me happy. I love to hear from you. So we will wait for tomorrow. And this is Barokecast signing out.